Welcome to our episode of Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down. Sponsored by Bible Interact and hosted by Dr. George Sparks. Now let's explore the field of archaeology in today's episode.
Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down. My name is George Sparks. So, of course, my co-host, Dr. David Graves, who received his PhD from Aberdeen University in Scotland. Also, we have a special guest, Glenn Ruffle. Is that pronounced correctly?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So today, David was telling me about you yesterday, so it happened pretty quick. And I just happened to be going through my email, and he said, "Hey, you need to send contact information." I said, "Wow, that's pretty quick. Love to have you on the program." And I was really excited when he told me about your background, your education, your involvement with the ministry, and your future endeavors. So to let everybody know out there in the audience, that Glenn actually worked with David at an excavation on the Jordanian side called Tal el-Hammam. Now, this was a fairly large excavation. So it had multiple levels. At a high level, it had what we call Middle Bronze Age. And I'll just give it a general date around 1800 BC. And then as you progress to the lower end of the excavation, the lower part of the Tell site, David, along with Dr. Scott Stripling, located, I believe, basically it was David's ingenuity of plotting different locations and mile markers, and then he located this Roman bath. And Dr. Stripling and Scott and also Glenn were working on the Roman bath system, excavating it for some time. And I believe that you came out, David, with and you wrote a book on it being ancient Livius. So today we're going to actually have a talk with one of the volunteers on David's group. David was my square supervisor for 2 weeks when I was at Tel el-Hammam 20 years ago. And then we didn't speak for 20 years. That's how much of a tyrant that man is, And then, and that's when he didn't have that beard. He looked really young, and I thought, then I seen later on, Teresa, my wife, said, "Hey, you ought to get back in touch with David Graves." I said, "Well, why not?" And then boom, this happened in about a year and a half. So here we are. That gives a little bit of our history and background, a little bit of your history and background. David, if you would, could you take it away from here?
Great. Well, maybe Glenn, you can maybe begin by introducing yourself a bit and maybe talk about how we met, because it's kind of it takes us a ways back in a different country.
Well, thank you, David. My name is Glenn Ruffle, and I'm, as you can probably tell, I'm from Britain, and I studied politics at university, and then I did some work in London in the political area. Then I got a job as a teacher, and I went to Russia, and I went out there teaching. And when I was doing that job, this guy turned up in the English school, and my job was supposed to be kind of give him an introduction to what the company was doing. And then very quickly I was like, wait a second, you're an archaeologist? And I thought, well, that is way more interesting than how to teach English. So the conversation quickly changed, and I was like, well, how do we become how can I be an archaeologist? How can I get involved? And David was like, you're on the team. So yeah. But sorry, since then, I studied theology at Cambridge University, and now I'm ordained in the Anglican Church, and I'm currently serving in Geneva. There's a church there, but I'm about to move to a church in England at a place called Lye, Christ Church in Lye. So I'm looking forward to that new move.
Right. And what else were you doing in Switzerland while you were at the church?
Yeah, so I was doing two things. I was part-time ministering in the church, and the other half of my time was building connections between the global Anglican communion of churches and the United Nations. So that involved advocacy in the Human Rights Council, like just trying to report information about terrible things happening around the world, and then also trying to build connections. For example, with the refugee agency, like many churches around the world are doing a tremendous work to help refugees, because Christians often are refugees, they're in the camps, and they're also the ones helping the refugees. And so we're able to build those connections between churches and the UN to kind of get some of the resources the UN has to help the churches do, care for people.
Yeah. Well, and actually, we worked three different seasons together. We worked at Jordan for two. I forget now how many years ago it was, but it was a
Many.
while. And then you worked at Shiloh in Israel with us for the first season that we started working there with Dr. Stripling.
Yeah.
But knew Scott from Hammam as well. So you've had some experience on both sides of the river, as we say.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I think it may have been 2013 at Hammam, and then 2014 in Israel, maybe. I don't know.
yeah,
A
I'd
long
have to
time.
look it up. I wrote in my memoirs, and I've been able to put all the dates and things down before I forget. So I have
Yeah.
to look my information up in my book myself. But so you've had some three seasons of experience digging in the. Maybe you could let our audience know a little bit about what it's like and your impressions of it as a volunteer. And
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, I thoroughly recommend it to begin with. But I remember when we arrived, we flew in, and you and Irina were getting your luggage off the plane, and then I had my tiny little bag, and you looked at me, you're like, "You don't have enough stuff packed." And yeah, sure enough, I was quite dirty for about 2 weeks. I didn't bring enough stuff. Um, but it's a tremendous experience because you know it, or you go with the idea of Indiana Jones. That's inevitable, but the reality is obviously a lot more. You have to just be a lot more careful, really. You, and you learn a tremendous amount on that process. As I began, I remember seeing. We arrived at the site. I remember seeing this piece of pottery sticking out the ground, and I was like, why is no one seeing this? And I spent some time carefully excavating it and taking it out. And I showed it to you, and you were like, yeah, just a piece of Roman pottery. And I was like, but it's Roman pottery. And then I realized there was just mounds of it, just huge piles of pottery.
you
And
remember you remember the day that you helped Irina and I lay them all out in the hotel
yeah,
table, and we had
yeah,
two long tables. I'll put a photo up of it, of pottery just from the Roman area from that one
yeah.
season. So we were getting it left, right, and center. Did you have an opportunity to find some of the whole vessels that we had in the Roman area, or?
Yeah, we never found any completely whole vessels when I was there, but I remember finding two parts which we glued together to make a plate. I believe that plate ended up in your collection, David. But there was two parts which came together, and but
I think that might have been
I
a
think
base, maybe. Yeah,
yeah, I think other people were finding the complete things.
yeah,
But I remember there was a corner in as we're excavating down, and there's like all these plates were just in this corner waiting to be found. It was
yeah,
incredible.
yes, yeah. One season we had a lot of whole vessels that came out of one. We call it the little
Yeah,
pottery hoard in the corner underneath the acacia trees.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, any experience with the acacia trees?
The acacia trees. I don't remember much about the trees. Um,
Thorns on them like that?
the thorns. Okay, I wasn't working very near them,
Okay, that would be with one of the other seasons. I
but
used to
there
have
were.
to hang my dig bag up on it to keep it away from the goats and the sheep.
Yeah, that was another thing. We were just digging away, and then suddenly we looked up, and then there's a Bedouin herder just coming across, and all these goats just walking across the site, just watching us, trying to grab people's hats and see if they could eat them. Uh,
Had to watch your lunch.
yeah, yeah.
You brought
But
something.
again, there's that insight into a different culture that's taking place, and you don't get that in normal life. And I think Jordan was magical because it was like this safe place, but it's also entirely different to anything we'd ever really known in the West.
Right.
Um,
Did you find a contrast between there and Israel? Digging?
yeah, yeah. I mean, Israel, there's that level of security and tension, um, and I whereas Jordan, you could see a car drive past with a camel in the back, you know, and these absurd things. Whereas Israel is more modern,
Right.
and yeah, but the security aspect I think in Israel is always present.
Yeah.
Um,
And we were
yeah,
also excavating in Shiloh, which is up in the West Bank. So
yeah, and
um,
there was the interest from the authorities just keeping an eye on us much more. Um, and the need to be careful. If you found bones, then obviously then Jewish settlers or people are going to be very interested in like what are they going to be respected, and there's this whole
right.
yeah a
And
whole
we
different
didn't
angle.
work every single day. So on our days off, what did we do?
Yeah, that's one of the excellent things about these excavation tours or tours of duty. It's all organized. You just get in the bus on your day off, and they take you off to see amazing places. So in Jordan, you went down to Petra, spent a beautiful day down there, exploring the city carved into the rocks. And other days we went into the desert. I can't remember the names of the places, but there's these old castles on the way into the desert where Lawrence of Arabia was, and um, there's the Dead Sea going down there, going to the baptism site of John the Baptist.
On the Israeli side, we went to a few
Yeah,
interesting places there as well, I think together.
yeah. I'm trying to remember that because I've been to Israel since then. I'm trying to distinguish my memories. Where did we go, David?
Right. Well, we did Masada and then we did
Mas-
Qumran.
Masada, of course. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think we did Jericho, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Qumran.
So
Yeah,
we did things down in the Jordan Valley because
yeah.
I had been digging down there earlier that season at the Qumran Cave, remember? That was the
Yeah,
first season at Shiloh. So I think I took everybody down to show where we were digging, where it was.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, there's lots of opportunity when you're not digging and washing laundry
yeah.
to
And we went to what was it, Macareus in Jordan, on the other side where Herod had
Macaris.
Machaerus. That's yeah,
Yeah, the mound, the fortress, yeah,
yeah,
King Herod's fortress.
yeah,
Yeah, we had Esther on one day on our podcast, and she talked about Macaris. If you remember Esther, the
yeah.
novel.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So Esther was on. So we've had Gary and Scott on, and Thomas. I don't know if you remember Thomas Winder.
I do remember him. I think he very kindly loaned me a water bottle that I'd failed to bring.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he's in Israel right now, still
Wow.
up in the far
That's,
north, but
wow.
for another few weeks. And then we're going to have Carol on, I think, later in the month. So
Excellent.
So
Yeah.
we're calling in some of our favors and giving everybody an opportunity to talk about their specialties. And
Yeah. Well, I don't really
so,
have a specialty, but I was just a volunteer. I'm very interested in archaeology and getting into to discovering like how is the Bible sort of known better through the artifacts being discovered, and
how does
yeah,
it
that was
help with your ministry? And now
well,
that it's been a number of years since you've had that experience, you've gone on now and got married and have a little one, and
Mhm.
congratulations. So it's life has changed, but those memories, what have they done to?
Yeah, I think that there's many different ways that it really helps. And I think the first one is, I mean, I've done presentations on what we did. People have been interested in learning about, like, what do you do as an archaeologist? What's that process? So you can give them an insight and teach them about particular areas of the Bible. I remember doing a presentation on Shiloh and drawing pictures of what it probably looked like and the location and plotting out where the Ark of the Covenant may have been. And so that's one. There's an educational aspect. Another angle is that I have this collection because there's so much broken pottery being brought up that a lot of it is just to be taken. So I've got some shards of pots, nothing sort of valuable, but um, you can pass those around the room, and people are like, "I'm holding a pot that came from ancient Sodom," and it just blows their mind that
Yeah.
what. um, and so it really brings it home to people. I think that they can touch history.
Right.
So that's another angle there. And I think the way you learn a huge amount as you're doing the digging, but you also then in the evenings there are often lectures taking place, and those lectures were really informative. And I was learning so much about just the biblical history. And at that time, I'd only got my own sort of reading to go on. I hadn't done a degree or anything, but
No.
it
But
really set good foundations.
but you had graciously offered to edit my archaeology books. So the first few books I published, Glenn was the editor to them. So I thank you very much for that. So you got a bit of a glimpse into the archaeology from we call it armchair archaeology.
Yeah, I had an
Sitting and
amazing job,
reading them.
which
Yeah.
I had a job which basically sometimes meant I was busy, but sometimes I could spend a whole day doing nothing. So David
Yeah.
sent his documents to me, and I could just read through and just make comments. And
Very
uh,
helpful.
yeah, but
So
that was also very informative
yeah.
in those early books. Yeah,
But there's nothing like getting your hands dirty and getting dirt under your nails to bring the
yeah.
Bible alive. So
And some really interesting discoveries, and the joy as well within you when you find something. I remember there was this a lot of the stones as we were digging down in this Roman bathhouse were very similar, but then I came across one and it had these carvings on it, and just as that came to light, and you just felt so, wow, what am I discovering here?
yeah.
And yeah, there's a real sort of sense of yeah, it's like Christmas. What is it? What is it?
Yeah. Let's get it unwrapped and
Yeah,
see what it is.
I think it
Yeah.
got taken off to a museum in Salt, but yeah,
Yes.
it was a nice stone.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think it was the basis upon which Lane Rittmeyer, our architect, was able to draw some of the structure actually in
Oh,
on the drawing that he made for us. It's on the cover of my, I published all of our artifacts and all the materials that we found in the Roman area. So I put the drawing on the front cover, but you can see it's
fantastic.
part of a half of a pillar. It was carved into a sort of architectural piece. So
Yeah, excellent.
discovering it in situ uh, in its original location is pretty exciting.
And
George,
I remember almost by accident we found I think it was you or someone, right, who found the oil lamp,
all right.
which just kind of was lying there. No one sort of saw it, and then suddenly someone said, "What's this?" And it was this amazing oil lamp, which I believe they were manufactured in Jerusalem, and pilgrims were buying them, and then someone had obviously left it
That's
on their
right.
way.
That's right. Yes, we found two. One was just sort of laying there, and then in another year, another season, Arena pulled one up for me. It was Valentine's Day, and she asked what I wanted for Valentine's. I said an oil lamp with a inscription, and so she lifted one up a few minutes later and said, "Here's one." Yeah, Jesus' light shines for all is what the Greek inscription reads. I think George, you've got a example of one right there. Yeah, there it is. We just found the small piece of it. Yeah, there's the
Amazing.
inscription around the rim.
Yeah.
That's one that's whole. Yeah, we did find a couple of whole vessels, oil lamps, but did you have any questions for Glenn, George?
No, I'm listening and I'm learning. For the listening audience, when you were in Jordan, did you visit Petra?
Yeah.
Okay,
We went
so
we went down to Petra. I've only been there once, and the day we visited, I had some major allergy going on, so my nose was streaming the whole day, but but it was still amazing.
yeah, so you're talking about Indiana Jones. I think one of their, what was it? The Last Crusades was filmed there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's your connection with Indiana Jones.
Yeah, yeah, and you obviously you need to buy the hat as well because the sun is relentless. So you need to have the hat to give you the shade, and then as you
Right?
go through those narrow cliffs, and then you come out and you see the is it the treasury they call it?
Yeah, that's it. It's called the
You see
Treasury.
that
Yeah.
emerge, you're like, oh, it's just like the movies.
There you, there you
Did
go.
you
Okay.
did,
The
did
second
you
one
have
is
any?
the Madaba map. Did you go see the Madaba map? And
Yeah,
there's a map. Yes.
in Madaba where we stayed the second time round, we went to see the Madaba map. I believe it was they were keeping it under a big carpet when you kind of had to pull back the carpet. But yeah, and again for someone like me that was is very amazing. But it's David who had kind of like shown some of the insights that was giving to us,
Okay.
and some of the things it was telling us.
Now,
Yeah,
David, did, did you happen to use the Madaba map to help indicate the location of Livius, your Roman bath where both of you were working?
yeah, I did. Yeah, I found one of the little villages up where we were digging.
Hmm.
So I just simply looked at the map and located generally where we would be digging on the other side of the Jordan up on the corner. And sure
Right.
enough, there's a site there. So that site was what was one of the clues. So I went home and began doing research as to what are people calling that site. And we discovered that it was called Livius. And sure enough, it's right where we were excavating at Tel El Hammam. So it was a big clue in helping putting the pieces together. And then uh, ancient writers told us how many Roman miles different places were from Livius, Tel Namreen and Jericho. And so we could triangulate. And then we find Roman mile markers at the museum not too far away at Mount Nebo. So, um, yeah, we were being detectives and we were able to put the pieces of the puzzle together and eventually publish
Okay.
on it. So that was pretty
So
exciting.
for the listening audience, so to break it down a little bit, so Petra is where the Nabateans were located during the Roman period. And also it's a location of trade. I think even Herod's mom was Nabatean. Herod the
Yeah,
Great. Okay, then the Madaba map is a Byzantine map. Well, it's a mosaic, I should say, a mosaic floor with it. Within it is a map that helps. I think it was for pilgrimage use.
right. Yeah,
Location.
in
Yes.
six in about 600 AD, the Spanish and Christian pilgrims were coming through using it to identify the holy sites. So
Right.
it's late, but it does give us the location from tradition of the ancient sites that they were commemorating. So it was helpful, and but keeping
Okay.
in
And
mind that it's later. And
all right, I've just taken notes here and for the listening audience so they can uh, help them follow it. And also, you mentioned another location that you went to in Jordan briefly was the fortress of Herod Machaerus. And I think, David, you talked briefly about how it's, in your opinion, we could say a hypothesis where it was Herod Antipas that might have used the Roman bath system, and why he was there. It's just a hypothesis. And we're just going off on some angles here, Glenn, if you don't mind, for the listening audience, so they can, like you said, it's an experience. You use your imagination, and as you unwrap it, it's kind of like Christmas. So all these things are, places where you went, the experiences, and Machaerus is where John the Baptist, according to tradition, or maybe it's actual factual, this was
Well,
the location. Huh?
according to Josephus, that is where he was beheaded or
John the
imprisoned.
Baptist.
That's where he was imprisoned. Whether he
Yeah.
died there or not, or whether he died elsewhere,
Okay.
we're not certain. But so we do know from ancient sources outside the Bible. So
All right. So I just wanted to put that in for the listening audience so they can follow it. I'm sure you're going to add pictures when you edit, and this will so the imagination will come alive for the listening audience. Uh, oh, Glenn, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to do that for the listening audience now. Yeah, I'm done. I just wanted to bring that in. So if
yeah.
you want to carry on,
Well, I still use some
let
of
the good
Glenn's
show.
some of the pictures you took, Glenn. I still use a couple of them in my book and what have you. Herod's tomb at the
Great.
Herodium. I've got that picture where you went there. I think it was Christmas Eve or something. I think it was. That the time we went at Christmas Eve? Well, that was
Uh,
with Scott at Christmas Eve, and
I don't think I was there at Christmas time,
oh, okay.
but
I
yeah,
was there a number of times. Like you said, it's
you were there a lot.
hard to keep everything sorted which year. That's why I had to put things down in my book and put the dates down. And
Yeah,
even then it was a challenge. So
yeah.
yeah. But what started off as a off the cuff meeting in Moscow, a friendship that's stayed for many years.
Yeah, and I think that was the shock to me, that it was so easy to become a volunteer on an archaeological dig. I
Yeah.
thought that everyone would be like a paid professional, but we just joined this big group of people, and I was one of the younger ones. 'Cause many people were like retired, but they,
Yeah.
they go out there year after year, faithfully serving, because they know that as they're uncovering these things, it's helping to write the history books and to help people get a better insight into what life was like and to what the Bible is really saying about the situation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
That really does help. Puts the pieces together.
yeah.
Well, any plans to ever do another dig?
I would love to, yeah, but I think with a little baby at the moment, our attentions may be elsewhere.
Sure.
Um, but
Right.
um, but yeah, I would like to at some point go back and do something like that. Um,
Like one of
I,
these retirees.
yeah, maybe, yeah, when I'm retired, go and take part.
I
As I
used to,
said, you learn so much, and and you realize how rich the Bible is, because like there's those accounts in Genesis, as well as the incredible literature, as well as the wisdom in there, as well as everything else. There's also this scientific facts taking place, and it's just like, wow, um, this is beyond a human mind. It's
right.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to say to my students, why would you want to go on a cruise when you can go on a dig? So in
Exactly.
retirement, things to look forward to. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first place we stayed when we went there was it was a beautiful hotel, wasn't it? But right on the Dead Sea.
all right. Yeah. The Movenpick.
The Movenpick, yeah. And
Yeah.
that was, so you could work hard all day and then you could really relax at night.
Yeah.
So yeah, why would you take a cruise?
Yeah. Then we moved up to Mataba. It wasn't as relaxing, but a little more
Yeah.
convenient. Did you have
Yeah.
any encounters with critters?
Yeah. Well, I remember one guy was digging away and then suddenly this lizard came out and ran over him. But
Oh,
I didn't encounter them quite like that, but I did see some scorpions and just made sure they didn't climb into any shoes or bags.
yep.
Um, and yeah, so there were sort of like little creatures that I could see.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was
Some
there
of
was
the
a few lizards
centipedes.
around. Sorry.
Centipedes.
centipedes. I don't think I saw any centipedes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But,
And then I had a few encounters with some snakes.
oh, yes, yeah, I remember
Both,
seeing them from a distance.
yeah, both at Hammam as well as Shiloh. So
Yeah,
you had to be careful of the poisonous vipers they have there. But
yeah,
and of course the camels and the sheep you see every day, and the donkeys
yeah,
coming through. But so
yeah,
it's quite an experience. Take
yeah,
it all in.
yeah,
Well, Glenn, it's really great catching up with you again, and for bringing our audience up to date as to what it's like to be a volunteer. And from your perspective, maybe it'll encourage others. If someone's interested in going on one of the excavations, Shiloh is still going to be open for a number of years. I think 3 or 4 years left that he's planning on digging over there. You can just go to their website, volunteer, or sign up, and pay your
yeah.
dues, and pack your bag.
And you really are looked after. You know, you arrive. There's a hotel booked for you. You've got the washing facilities you need. You've got a bus to take you there and back.
Yeah,
Lunch is taken care of. The I think the evening meal is usually taken care of, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. So there's not really a huge amount you need to do. Just dig.
Enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
David, I'm gonna. Well, it's on my mind. Uh, Glenn, you edited David's book, but you're an author yourself, and your book was not necessarily on archaeology, but it's on history. The history is the history. Now, I'm not too sure because David briefly said something to me about this. It's on Great Britain history. Could you fill us in
Yeah.
on what
Yeah.
you wrote?
Yeah, it's just a sort of light introduction to the key people in British history. So it kind of just takes you through key characters, and in doing so, gives you an overview of the story of Britain. So yeah, and
And
David
Okay,
helped.
well,
you did a caricature drawing of each of them as well, I remember. And
I did a lot of little
they were
pictures.
pretty accurate. I could recognize them, so they were pretty well done. And that so it was really nicely done. And we put it together, and I helped you publish it on Amazon. So if anyone's
Yeah,
interested, I'll put the cover of it up, and they can look it up on Amazon.
no,
What's it
thank you.
called again? It's called
The need to know people of British history.
The Need to
I
Know
need to
People
know
of British
people of
History.
British history. Now, once again, this is all hearsay from David. So if I don't have this exactly right, sir, you blame it on David, would you please?
I will, with pleasure.
And then I tell David, how many books have you written now, David? Like 40?
Right now I got 44, and I've got Glenn, I've got 4 coloring books.
Yeah,
Believe
I
it or
saw
not.
this.
I
Yes,
did.
his
I did them.
PhD in coloring books.
So when Hazel gets a little older and you need a coloring book,
Oh, there you go.
start her up
Yeah.
with archaeology, right? At a
I'll definitely get them. I'll get them soon, actually, and then they'll be ready.
young
If I
age.
would have thought about this ahead of time, I would have had one of your coloring books up here and I would share it.
Yeah, mine are over there on the shelf, but I did them for my grandchildren, and I thought, why not? And
Right.
there wasn't anything else out there like it. So you can get them on dinosaurs, but why not Bible archaeology? And I have a pencil drawing of the actual artifact, and with some other fun things around, some animals or birds, or so they're nicely done, and so a nice panel that they can do. And there's a little write up on the back of the artifact, written for a 6-year-old. So anyway,
Thanks.
venturing off, and I'll do 44 books.
I mean, I don't have all 44, but I got a good selection, They're about pretty deep. And I tell David, I read his books because, for some of the podcasts, or sometimes I do these little promotionals and I just want brief history on the subject. So I get one of David's books. So I tell David, I said, David, I used your book, but I never give you the credit because it makes me look smart. I'll just leave it like that. But Glenn, this is what I was saying, blame it on David if I don't have this right. At one time, your father was a tour guide. I believe that's what he said. And then you wrote your book, and your dad used your book during the tours. Is that correct? Something like that, or what?
He had a little bus company, and so like a coach. So he'd take people on like tours of the UK, and sometimes into Europe. But yeah, if there was an opportunity, he would use the opportunity to sort of say, well, you can find out more in this little book.
So there we go. So that's all fun stuff to know. All right,
Yeah.
David, I guess you had that right.
Yeah, well, it was some fun little trivia that you don't usually hear on other podcasts. And George has got a few artifacts we showed today, and
Mhm.
some coins there. And did you find any
Okay.
coins, Glenn? Did you?
No, we never found any coins. I remember us finding some little pieces of glass, Roman glass,
Lots of Roman glass, yeah.
and how intricate it was, like really delicate stuff.
Yeah.
But it was mainly plates and pots. I remember in Shiloh in Israel, we found these big balls of like rock, which were either used as like weapons or as weights. I don't know if they ever discovered what they actually were, but
Okay. Pounders, or I think we discussed the last podcast. George had some there and showed them. Sling
Yeah,
stones,
I
pounders.
don't know what I did with. I thought I put him back out in the garden.
George has got so much stuff around his office there that it's hard to surprising he knows where it all is. So,
We
well,
have a good
everyone,
time.
thanks for tuning in with our podcast this week, and Glenn, for your participation. And it's been a pleasure catching up. And we'll stay around for a bit and maybe talk about some other things and catch up a little bit more. Do you want to have any final words, George?
Yeah, Glenn, thanks for your time. I really appreciate this. It was very interesting, and to share your experience with the listening audience, and how your excavation experience helps you also in the ministry, and you carried on and got an education, a formal education, and you worked it was in Russia and in the UN, and then you're going to be. You said you are ordained, so should your title be Reverend? Are you Reverend now?
if you want to call me Reverend, yeah,
But
I can use
blame
that
it on
legally.
David, because I said, now wait a minute, because when I wrote you an email, I said PhD.
Yeah.
But you do have a title, so folks, my bad. I should have introduced him as Reverend Glenn Ruffle.
Well,
And
I think
I
maybe
failed to do
you're
that.
being prophetic, and maybe I need to go and get a PhD. So,
Oh, you did mention that.
Always
No.
time. Well, also remember that Gary Byers knows you on the bus and introduced you as One N Glenn.
yeah,
That was your claim to fame.
yeah,
So,
one end Glenn.
One N Glenn. Gary was always but it's actually Reverend Ruffle. So it's been good to have you on the channel with us today, Glenn.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to catch up.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of our show today. Thank you, Glenn, for participating. David, for leading the conversation today, because you both worked together at Tal El Hammam, and also both of you, I believe, worked at Shiloh as well with Dr. Scott Stripling.
Yep.
And that is ABR, Associates for Biblical Research. So this has been a lot of fun for me. I appreciate it. And at this time, we are at 244,000 subscribers, on our way to 250,000. And thanks for everybody for your participation, your likes, your subscribing. Always great to have that. Everybody have a good week, good day. We'll see you the next time. Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.